everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are back doing a romantic reading wrap up. This is our first in a couple months. We haven't done one since October. And because we had a few things taking up our time during the holidays. So this could be a lot of fun. We are considering this kind of our holiday reading recap. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Bree is here.
Hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, it's over, Rachel. I'm sad.
We did it. We made it through.
We did.
Yes.
I'm excited though. Like I love New Year's. I am always excited to see what Hallmark's gonna do with like the New Year's lineup.
I know.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm like, oh, The Wedding Veil. Okay, where's the other like New Year's movies?
Yeah.
And then I love Valentine's. I love when they do Valentine movies.
Yeah, I'm sad that we don't have Winterfest anymore. I really enjoyed that for the most part, except for the Maze movie. That was atrocious. But for the most part, I enjoyed the Winterfest movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking in the group chat yesterday that it feels like to me that the Wedding Veil movies were super popular, but like I know hardly anybody that loves them.
But we're getting 3 more.
We're getting 3 more. So I'm really curious to see how they do, if they get the same ratings and it's just like my friends that didn't, love them and maybe everybody else did, or I don't know. But it does seem like pretty much everyone I know was very like meh to not liking them. Like in that
I'm sorry, y'all. I was like, I have no interest in watching them whatsoever. So I never even gave them a try. My mom watched them and loved them.
Oh, yeah.
But do you think it's more of like, okay, so like 3 wise men, right? They had these 3 like bomb, famous, wonderful actors in one movie. Do you think it's kind of like an attempt like that, but like stretching it out?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the best part of those movies was the time when they're together. The girlfriend time was by far the best part of the movies, but the plots they gave to these women was just not great. But
okay.
It was boring. I'm sorry, I didn't love them, and but I'm just very curious to see what these new 3 as far as the ratings and what they'll get, because I didn't realize at the time, but the Lacey Chabert Wedding Veil movie did better than anything from Christmas 2021 Hallmark.
Wow.
That's how good the ratings were.
Wow.
Which is why we're getting 3 more.
3 more. But I mean, do you think it's because people are showing up because it's Lacey? Like, we love Lacey.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, she did Christmas movies in 2021. So there was something about the Wedding Veil movies that they really brought me. I think it's because it really tapped into, and it'd be interesting to hear what you think about this, but I think it's because they tapped in to romance novels, and they really told the story, because that when you read a romance novel, usually there's some kind of theme throughout a series. There'll be like the Fool's Gold series or the baseball team series or the, whatever. And you get a story. And usually the other characters will pop in to the story.
Yeah.
But you get a new character for every book. And that's basically what they did for the Wedding Veil movies. They have this kind of theme, and the characters kind of all 3 pop in to all 3, but it's, you get a new character each story. And I was doing some research for a thing I did, and there's that romance novels are hugely popular right now. I mean, they are leading the adult fiction genres. I forget, I don't have the stats in front of me, but it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Here,
I mean, I'm not surprised, because you always hear that like romance keeps the lights on in the fiction world. Between romance and mysteries, it's always kind of like neck and neck.
Yeah, I think here's what I found, that romance category is contributing to 2/3 of the overall gains in adult fiction.
Yeah.
2/3.
Yeah.
And then unit sales grew 40% over 2021. And so, yeah, it's really, really popular right now. And so that's kind of what I think, is that they tapped into that fan base really well.
I mean, even though I will say you and I read the book that it's based on.
Yeah.
It's totally different, you guys.
Not at all. But I know you're an expert on romance category. Do you see that?
See what? Like,
That they were tapping into that fan base?
I mean, I haven't watched the movies. I haven't watched them yet, so I don't know. But I mean,
but you know how I'm saying about how
yeah.
the romance novels will do these series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's just interesting that like we're still following the same characters, because usually with these series, like the first three would have been, Lacey and Allison and what's her name, Autumn.
Yeah.
And then like the next three would be three other women. So it's
that's true
to see like you said, what plot lines are we doing now? And
well, and they always struggle in Hallmark with the sequels, figuring out what to do next now that they're matched up. And I do think that it's just going to be interesting to see if it taps into that fan base as well with these three. And if they get I don't think they'll do as well, because I feel like it's one of those things that everybody watched, but nobody really loved.
Yeah. I didn't understand why we needed, why we needed three movies in the first place. But then it's kind of like, with like Three Wise Men or even Santa Stakeout, right? Like these really fun special movies. And it's like, we all wanted another Santa Stakeout, but realistically, are we going to get one? Do we really need one? Like, it is special because it was it, Like, do we need more? And if we got more, would it ruin how special the first one was? So that's my only hope for the fans of this trilogy, is like, you loved the first three. Did you really, really need another three? And is it going to ruin?
And I just feel like, did people love the first three? Like, or is it just my friends that were all very meh on him? I don't know. It'll be
listeners. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Sorry, it was a total tangent, but I think it does actually relate to books, and them using some of the same techniques that sell these romance novels.
Because the book that we read was adapted by Hallmark. So. And I didn't even realize that you were like,
season,
you were like, we picked another Taylor Cole book.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because we read Long Lost Christmas by Joan Kilby this over the November and December. And I didn't really think about it until I was preparing my notes yesterday, and that we had done Pumpkin Everything in October. And so I think we need to do another Taylor Cole movie adaptation.
And it's interesting because didn't they keep this same title for the movie? I haven't watched this movie yet either. So
oh, you didn't end up watching it?
I haven't watched it yet. No, I haven't watched it. But they kept the title.
Yeah, they did keep the same title. And it was a rough because it came out the same day as Three Wise Men.
Yeah.
And so
I watched Three Wise Men. I haven't watched this.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast.
From the writer of such Hallmark Channel hits as Hitched for the Holidays and Lights, Camera, Christmas, and last year's award-winning rom-com novel, The Last Birthday Party, comes the acclaimed family drama, The Mother I Never Had.
It's the moving and powerful story of LA landscape designer Nate Cronin, whose father dies, leaving Nate an orphan at 30 years old.
But when the provocative and mysterious Amy enters Nate's life soon after, it sends him on a devastating journey to unravel the truth about his past.
The Mother I Never Had, which Town and Country magazine named one of the must-read books of fall 2022.
It's a novel that asks readers to consider what they would do if they found themselves faced with a parent they never knew existed, and if they could accept the secrets and lies that kept her away for a lifetime.
The Mother I Never Had is available through all local and online bookstores, and there's a special Christmas sale. Kindle copies 20% off through January 2nd on Amazon.com only.
Be sure to use our affiliate link in the description below.
We did, who was I on with that one? Oh, it was Thaddeus and Liz Johnson. They were on that episode. We did Long Lost Christmas and Three Wise Men. It was fun recap.
Yeah.
But
It's a rough spot for Long Lost Christmas.
yeah, it really is. But this book, it's hoping to reunite her mother with her long lost brother for Christmas. Interior designer Haley Stevens travels to Montana to hand deliver a Christmas card to the uncle she's never met. Finding her uncle is easier than getting him alone to explain her mission. Reluctantly, Haley hides her identity to learn more of her uncle and his family, but it's his handsome and enigmatic partner who captures her heart and imagination. I guess overall, what did you think of the book?
You go first, Rachel. You go first.
I enjoyed it. I felt about the same for the movie as the book. I think they were both like fine.
Yeah,
enjoyable. I do think that there's a few things that are actually better in the book than in the movie. I don't need to spoil the movie for you, but in the movie, she has no idea that her uncle exists. Like she's never even heard. And then she finds this box of trinkets and letters, and then she, finds out from her mother that she had this brother that they got separated in foster care and weren't able to reconnect. And in the book, she knows about him, but she's just never taken the initiative to. It's not like a big reveal of like, what, you have a brother? That's not really in the book, and I think that that's better in the book than.
I swear sometimes they change like the most minute detail and you're like, why did you change that? Because honestly, like you could have left it alone. I honestly do think, like, I feel the same way as you. I felt like the book was fine. I was for people with anxiety, I will say, like, I was anxious the entire time reading it because it's like, I just don't like when plot lines are centered around a lie, like, it's hard for me.
And it's not like a fun lie. Like a fun lie is like, this is my fake fiance. That's fun, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And makes you laugh. But like, this isn't really that fun. There's nothing silly about it. So you're just kind of, anxiety
on edge,
inducing.
right? But I do think that I was reading it and I was like, okay, this is a book where you could literally just adapt the book as is into a movie.
Yeah.
Like
and
the
they
drama.
pretty much did. I mean, the romance felt more rushed in the movie, even though it is rushed here. It's in like a week that they basically fall in love with each other. I think that's just a difference in formats, that like in a movie, it feels even more rushed. Like they'd barely met and he's like already kind of declaring his love for her. And then he doesn't want her to leave Sweetwater or whatever. What's it called?
Sweetheart.
I
kept saying Sweetwater too. Yes.
And I don't know. It was just really fast that they went from like meeting each other at the log home display place and like being attached to the hip in the movie. And it's true here, but I don't know. It just is it felt more rushed in the movie to me.
Yeah. I kind of forgot that it was a romance. I was like, man, I'm just so stuck on this lie that we got carrying.
Oh, so you weren't invested in Haley and Blake.
I mean, I wanted to be, but I just, the lie of it all was so front and center that I kind of forgot about it.
Did you feel like she needed to create the lie?
No.
Yeah, no, I felt like she should have just been like, hi, I'm your niece. Surprise. Like,
yeah.
I don't think there was the need for the lie.
I mean, I understand, like, you don't want to just show up in this small town and be like, hey, I'm your niece. You want to get a feel. I feel like it went on too long, especially because once it's revealed, sorry, listeners, for spoilers, but like everybody's so loving and welcoming.
Right.
Like, girl, I've been anxious for over 200 pages and this is the welcoming you get.
Yeah, I feel like most people would probably reach out via like a lawyer or something like that, and be like, "Hi, I'm your niece. I want to get to meet you," or there would be some kind of more. I feel like that would be the way to do it, is to kind of make it official
Have
and
someone else.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah, have
I love
someone
that you said
else.
that because I was like, I actually listened to a podcast like some weeks ago, and there was a private investigator that deals with stuff like this. And he's
Mhm.
like, let us be the one to reach out.
Yeah.
Don't you do it. So I love that you said that. I'm like, that's where she went wrong,
Yeah.
but she
Yeah.
got love in the end.
Yeah, I mean, she creates this whole story about having a client and designing wanting a log home. I mean, I never learned so much about log home
Me
building
neither.
than reading this book. Like, we really didn't need to have the whole guy who's what's Coates?
John Coates. Yeah. The bad
Coates,
guy.
yeah. The bad guy log home builder. Really didn't need that. But I did think I thought the chemistry between Haley and Blake was actually pretty good. And maybe it's just because I had Benjamin Ayres and Taylor Cole in my head, and I thought their chemistry was also really good, even though I felt it was rushed. But I was like, ooh, they should keep using these two together. They were good.
Yeah. It was just hard
Definitely.
because like they'd have these like sweet moments, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, what's the hero's name? I keep forgetting what
Haley,
so this Haley and what's his name?
Blake.
Blake. Blake would be like, Blake was suspicious of her, which I was like, way to go, Blake. Blake was
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Blake thought she was working for John Coates. So like they'd have
Right.
these moments, but then it would be so overshadowed by like him being suspicious of her and us as the reader knowing she's lying. I'm
Mhm.
just like, I don't know. This just is too much for me.
So my quote, I always do a quote from the book we're talking about, and it's, "As for sticking around, it was fun to toy with the idea of living in Sweetheart, but would she really give up her life and her business in California, or had the appeal of the small town and falling for Blake clouded her vision? All of a sudden, she wasn't sure."
Oh, Blake.
I mean, got hunky Blake. Wait, what are you what are you waiting for?
Right, right.
You don't get those kind of guys in California.
Did you feel though, like, okay, I mean, okay, listeners, I didn't hate the book. I really liked the book. I
Yeah.
just was anxious the whole time. Like, there were so many instances where I'm like, Haley is so nosy. And like
Yeah,
Blake
you
was
would
just,
definitely start to wonder, like, what is wrong with this woman?
yes. You're asking
Uh,
a lot of questions.
yeah. So, what did you think of Haley and Brianna?
I
So,
loved Brianna.
yeah,
I
they're
was like,
cute.
okay, that when Brianna started like really getting close to her, that's when I was like, okay, this lie has gone on a long time because this woman, she called her sis at one point. I was like, she loves her.
Yeah. Yeah, that cousin bond.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you someone who's close with your cousins? Do you know, you do
Oh
things with
yeah,
your cousins?
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Same with me. I mean, especially when when I was growing up, because now it's just so much harder because we're all over the place, and we used to have regular family reunions, gatherings, and we just don't do that as much anymore. But when I was growing up, on my dad's side, there was like a whole crop of us within like say 6 years that were all girls.
Hmm.
So there were
Yeah.
probably 9 or 10 of us between all the different siblings that, as far as cousins, that were all teenagers at the same time.
Oh my God.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best.
And all girls except for my brother. So yeah, I was grateful that I was, close. On my mom's side, I'm one of the oldest ones. So
Mhm.
it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
They're all a lot younger than me. But what did you think about Sweetheart? Did you want to go to Sweetheart from reading this book?
I mean, I did. It's always fun to be in like these fictional small towns where everyone's nice and
Yeah.
welcoming. It definitely
Yeah.
feels like a little bit of a stretch and a fantasy, but I did. I really liked Sweetheart.
Yeah, they did a good job making it very, very charming. And I mean, I would never want to, no offense to all the listeners in Montana, but just that cold up there. Whew. I mean, I live in Utah and that's cold enough being up there closer to the
Oh,
the
I know.
top of the
All my
world.
friends
Ooh,
all my friends in the military that are
cold.
stationed in Montana are like, it is
So
cold.
cold. Yes.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
I mean, it's been crazy, this cold wave that's gone through. But did you see like some of the pictures of well, right where you are in Texas, that like that there's this picture of a car wash that got completely frozen in Texas.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was like basking in the glory of it all. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like 30 degrees outside today. I mean, it was 71 yesterday, so it did not last long at all. But
Yeah.
I enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah, that was wild. I hope everybody's safe that's listening, because it was definitely a crazy storm. But yeah, I liked Haley and Brianna were sweet, and they did a good job of just creating this idyllic Christmas town that has multiple log cabin businesses.
Yeah.
The
I mean, it
town.
definitely it did. I think log cabins are beautiful. So I was like,
Mhm.
I haven't really seen this in a romance novel, like
Yeah.
such focus on it. So I thought that was really cool that she did that.
Mhm. Yeah. And there's also more drama in the movie. There's that whole scene in the book where they have the what do they call it? The open house,
Mhm.
kind of thing. Well, she in the movie, she gets really upset because she finds out that he is doing this open house to help the foster home. And
Okay.
she thought that he had like completely distanced himself from that. And so she's really upset that he is kept in touch with all of that and yet not
Reached out to her
reached
mom.
out to her mom.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And he thought that it would hurt her chances of being adopted if they knew he was in the picture. And so that's why in the movie, why he didn't reach out, but it doesn't really make sense because I feel like once she's an adult, like, why wouldn't you, or at least like write or some kind of contact
Exactly.
that you would shut off completely. And he goes into the military. And so it didn't quite make sense to me that he would do that. But anyway, she gets really upset and storms off in the movie. She doesn't really do that in the book.
Yeah. No.
So they got more melodrama out of the movie.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But I guess it's movies and mysteries, so Miracles of Christmas.
I mean, because Uncle Gordon was real chill in the book. He had no
Yeah.
idea. She literally had to open the card, Uncle Gordon. Open the card.
Yeah. Yeah. So I enjoyed it. As far as spice, there's nothing but kissing.
Yeah.
In the book. It's clean language. The chemistry I think was pretty good. And I think it was helped by the fact I kept thinking of Benjamin Ayres and Taylor Cole, who have really good chemistry. And then just as
Yeah.
far as trope time, we had The Lying. And there's it's basically love at first sight.
Yeah. Small
They
town
immediately fall for
romance.
each other.
Kind of workplace because they are working together.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. So what would you give it out of 5?
I rated it a 3, like 3.5.
Yeah, I agree. Same.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hearty, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Right. Well, let's talk about our reading, what we've been reading. And yeah, I've had a surprising, like, of course, this is over 2 months, but considering how busy I was, I feel pretty proud of myself that I read this much. But what's one that you read over these 2 months?
I read Home for Christmas by Courtney Cole, and it's a time travel romance. So basically, if you could time travel back and hang out with your grandmother or one of your grandmothers when they were like early 20s, would you? Like she time travels back to like the 50s, and is basically hanging out with her grandmother. Her grandmother's love is away at the war. And she finds love while she's there. And, in time travel, it's like, well, how are you going to make this work? Because you're not even from this time period kind of thing. I really liked it. I think like diehard history fans are going to be able to just tear it apart. But for what it's worth, like I couldn't put it down. I was really, really invested in the book. So yeah.
I love that idea. I would love to go and hang out with my grandpa.
Yeah.
My
in the younger years.
Yeah, that's so cool. That sounds really good. So I read The Holly and the Ivy. This was an anthology of Christmas Regency stories. And we'd done one of them in the past for Reading Roundup. And this had Sarah Eden, Esther Hatch, and Dana Leschamont, and others. And it was interesting because I spent pretty much this whole fall trying to get through the first story. It just was not doing it for me, about this little kid, this kind of bratty little kid. And there's this romance between, what was she? Between two of the employees. I can't remember. Anyway, I just thought it was really dry, the first story. And I think it's partly because Sarah Eden, she has written all of these novels about this family. So I think people that are really invested in the family and invested in that world and in the novels probably love this short story to get to know Adam a little bit better and everything. And but it was, since I haven't, it was not for me. But then once I just finally just moved on and started reading the other stories, I was like, okay, these are good. Stories.
That's the thing with anthologies. Like, you're more than likely going to have one that sucks.
Yeah. And like I said, it doesn't suck. It just, I think people that are invested in that world
will appreciate it more.
Will like it much better than I did. But yeah, I mean, I love Esther's my friend, and I think she writes swoon-worthy romance so well, and I'm very excited for her new book coming out soon. So that will be fun. And so yeah, if you like Regency romance, then definitely you should check out these. I don't think it was as good as the one that we covered.
Okay.
That anthology I thought was really good. And what was your next one?
The next one I read was Her Christmas Redemption by Toni Shiloh. This is a faith.
Ah,
It's so good. It's a faith-based romance. It was different. The heroine just recently got out of doing like 180 days in jail for a DWI. And so it takes place in Arkansas. I was like, when's the last time I read a romance in Arkansas? But so she goes to this small town to just kind of get away. And is staying in a tiny home ran by the hero. He has like this little tiny home community. And then we find out that his father was killed by a drunk driver. So enter in all types of conflict. And she doesn't want people to know. But then I don't even want to spoil it, but the moment where he walks up and sees that this is her truth or whatever, the way that he responded was really interesting. But it just really, like, the pastor has to step in and be like, look, this is not how Christians act. Like, this is, you're not going to do this kind of thing. And I loved it. It was such a good book. It was a really, really good book about redemption and forgiveness and questioning, like, if you say you're a Christian, how could you respond to her situation like this, like just being judgmental, I guess. I loved it. So
I'll have to read that because I love Toni. She's great. We had her on the podcast. We interviewed her. I interviewed her, and she was. I liked her to Win a Prince, and the way that she did faith in that one was really well done, very nuanced. So I'll have to check that one out.
And the heroine, like, she found her faith while in jail. So I loved that too. Like, she was a new Christian, but she's so excited about, having discovered her faith and stuff like that. So yeah,
that's good. Cool.
What's yours?
My next one was our book club book for December. The book club that I'm in. I was so excited because I had missed like 5 in a row. It was really bad. I was like, am I even in the club? But because I kept having screenings. Yeah. And other things.
Even in the club.
Yeah. I mean, and I've been in this book club for many, 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 many years. Probably, I don't know, 10 years, a long time. And so I was really sad that I kept missing it. And so I was so excited that I was able to go to the Christmas one. And we did it was fun. We always do a Yankee swap, like a gift exchange with just books. And everybody picked a book that was their favorite from 2022. And so, of course, you have no doubt what I picked is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter.
Yay!
It was my pick. I love that book so much. Anyway, we read In Holidays by Christina Lauren. And I'm very curious to see if this is what Hallmark is adapting into this, because there's the series that they're doing next year called Holidays. I wonder if it's this book.
I haven't read this one, but it's like a Groundhog Day.
It's a time loop
right?
story.
Okay.
And it's pretty swoon worthy. It's a little bit
Steamy.
spicy.
Yeah.
A little bit spicy, but it was fun. I liked the romance, and it was all set in Utah, which was kind of fun. Random.
What do you think about the loop stories? Because Lifetime had that one with I just call him Frasier. I can't remember his real name.
Yeah, that was good. I liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like Time Loop. I like Palm Springs. That's really funny.
That was a fun one.
Movie. Yeah. I like Groundhog Day, of course. I mean, it can be done badly, but you get enough that they're learning enough in that time. There's actually Lynn Painter has one called The Do-Over, which is really fun too. So yeah, this was fun. I didn't like the heroine sometimes wasn't that appealing. She was kind of unlikable, but she does learn. But it's a kind of a friends to lovers thing. Is the was it the brother of her, they're longtime family friends, and the brother and so it is cute when she finally says to him that she has feelings for him, and he says I never allowed myself to go down that route. I just never thought it was a possibility, which was very swoon-worthy, I thought.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'd recommend it. And it is, like I said, it's all set in Utah, which is sort of fun.
Yeah. It's always fun where you're like, I live here.
Yeah. Yeah. But what about you next?
Okay, next I'll talk I read The Backup Plan by Jill Shalvis. So this comes out in January. And it is book 3 in her new series called the Sunrise Cove series. None of these books are connected. The only thing that connects them is they're set in the same small town. And this is one of those like lady dies and she in her will like leaves her like bed and breakfast. It was called the Last Chance Inn to these 3 people whose lives she played a huge part in. So like one of them was actually her niece. And then the hero is like a kid she kind of took in, and then the heroine as well. And so they all come back and they are wanting to renovate it and potentially sell it. But it's like, before you do that, it has stipulations kind of thing. And so the romance is between Alice and Knox. And I just it was the romantic comedy that I needed. Jill Shalvis is just hilarious. I loved all 3 of the characters. I don't know how she's able to like write a book with 3 people that you just love so much and are rooting for. Her niece, she gets a romance as well. She's a town librarian. And I love that she like loses her job in the book. Like it's just very realistic, like library cuts. We got to let you go. And it's like, what am I going to do next? And you just are like, librarians are superheroes. They should not have to deal with this. But I loved it. It was so fun. It was funny. I love home renovation stories. Like I love home renovation books. And this just, it had like some sister elements, like the woman that died, her name was Eleanor. And, the niece and her were like, they had never really had a relationship because the niece's dad always had like really hateful things to say about Eleanor. And it was like, stay away from her. But in her death, she gets to learn more about her. And she's like, it's just not adding up. Like, she doesn't sound like a bad person. So yeah, there was like a lot of drama, and they get to see the ways that she stepped in and kind of had their back in ways that they probably wouldn't have appreciated at the time when she was alive. But it was fantastic. So it's The Backup Plan by Jill Shalvis. I was like, minus the steam, Hallmark needs to adapt this. Like this needs to be a book.
But they've de-steamified many a book. So they should.
I mean, the Wedding Veil trilogy. Come on.
Yeah. Well, my next one is called The Rewind by Alison Wynne Scotch. And I was looking for something kind of New Year's ish. I thought would be fun. Well, this one, I didn't really end up enjoying it. It's basically these 2 high school rivalries / they had crushes on each other, but never did anything about it, kind of a thing that they end up at this reunion. And the next morning they wake up and they are not only in bed together, but they are married. They got married. And they can't remember any of it.
I love when that happens.
I like that premise, but unfortunately, I just found both of them to be kind of not likable and not very. It hurt the chemistry, and the way they treated everybody, and I just got kind of tired of both of them. So in the end, it didn't really work for me, but it was a fun premise.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Did you have any others?
I think the last one I'll shout out what I did have. I want to shout out Flora's Traveling Christmas Shop by Rebecca Raisin. I loved that book. You guys, if you're still in the Christmas mood, read it. But I think I did read a cozy mystery, Murder at the Christmas Cookie Bake Off by Darcy Hannah.
Oh.
I was able to check it out from the library. It is like, if you're still in Christmas mood, like it is full on Christmas aesthetic. It's a cozy mystery, so we're not like seeing blood and gore all over the place. I really loved it. And it's got a little bit of Mrs. Claus magic in it, which I loved. So yeah, Murder at the Christmas Cookie Bake Off, Darcy Hannah. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, cool. So I had Otherwise Engaged. This is by Joanna Barker. This is another Regency romance.
And in the Regency mood.
I know. I do love Regency. And we've had Joanna actually on the podcast before. She's, I think, a very good writer. She basically, in this book, her character has gotten engaged to this man who is the rival of their. It's almost like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. Like their families are big rivals and they hate each other and everything. And she's engaged to this guy in secret, of course. And he's like a nice guy, a good guy. But all of a sudden she ends up saving the daughter or niece of this other lord guy. And they end up in each other's company a lot. And she starts to get feelings for this Lieutenant Nicholas Avery. And so she's got this guy that she's engaged to secretly, and then this new guy. And normally I don't love that plot, of like cheating, kind of emotional cheating or whatever, but she says, I think, such a good writer that it did work for me. And the kind of back and forth and between the two guys, it's basically like a love triangle kind of a thing. So I enjoyed it. I think it was a fun book. And then I also read If Only Christmas Would Come. This was a sponsor of the podcast, and by the Home for Hallmark team, Molly Stewart and Brad Fitch. They wrote this book, and it is a little bit spicy. And but it's set in the turn of the century. This woman is a cranberry farmer. And she goes back home, and there's this guy who is helping work at the farm. They don't get along at first, but then they get to know each other. And it was a fun book, and I was certainly grateful for them for sponsoring the podcast. So that's what I read, but I'm pretty proud of myself for reading all of that.
You did great. It's a busy time for you, so
yeah. It helped that almost all of it was available on audiobook. So thank you. But let us know what you've been reading. If you've read any of those books we talked about, or if you read Long Lost Christmas, or what you thought of the movie. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter, or you can follow both of us on Goodreads. We're on there. But Bree, where can people find you?
You can find me pretty much everywhere at Bree Unabashedly. And I co-host the Categorically Romance podcast. And I'm here chatting books and movies with my friends. So there you go.
Yes. And we had your co-host Erin on
I know, I
podcast.
loved it.
It was so fun talking Christmas Story. I felt bad because we'd had a miscommunication, and he thought he was supposed to watch Christmas Story 2. But I meant A Christmas Story Christmas, and the new one, because A Christmas Story 2 is terrible. I would never make anybody watch that. I was like, I'm sorry. But it was really fun. He's very, very good. It's fun to have a conversation with.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, y'all should check out the podcast, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, and on Goodreads. So check that out, and make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media, except for Facebook, because our Facebook is down. So don't go there. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps people find the podcast. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is so much fun. And you get exclusive reviews and early episodes. And we have our watch alongs. And this month we are having James Denton on for a watch along, which is going to be amazing for Kiss Before Christmas. So you don't want to miss out. Please become a patron. And then we also have our merch store, which has tons of fun designs. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. Happy New Year. Bye, everyone.
Happy New Year, everybody.